I think we should go ahead and get started. So I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Sparks Planning Commission, Thursday, June 4th, 2020. Can we please start with let me have you provide the call-in information first.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I would like to take a minute to share how to speak during public comment this evening. There are 3 separate public comment periods associated with tonight's agenda. The Commission will take general public comment during agenda items 3 and 10. In addition, the Commission will take public comment specific to public hearing item number 6. If you wish to speak during any of these public comment periods, you will need to access the Zoom link provided on the meeting notice or the agenda. The agenda can be found on the city's website under boards and commissions. You can also join the meeting by telephone by dialing 1-669-900-6833. The meeting identification number is 970-0927-5256. This will join you by audio to the meeting. You will then be prompted by either the chair or the secretary when public comment is open, and you can use the Zoom features or press *9 on your telephone to request to speak. Please note that pressing *9 once will raise your hand to speak. Pressing it again will lower your hand. Please make sure your hand is raised if you wish to speak. Individuals shall limit their comments to 3 minutes per Nevada Revised Statute 241.020. Emailed public comments specific to agenda item number 6 will be read aloud at the beginning of the public comment period for this item. The emails will also be given 3 minutes per NRS 241.020. The dial-in numbers will not be given again previous to the next 2 public comment periods. I will give the meeting ID number again one more time here. It is 970-0927-5256.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Now, can we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson? Absent. Commissioner Blako?
Here.
Commissioner Carey?
Present.
Commissioner Pritzos?
Here.
Commissioner Rawson?
Present.
Commissioner Vanderwell?
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Allison McCormick?
Here.
Assistant Community Services Director Armando Ornelas?
I'm here.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to provide comment on any item on or off the agenda. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment waiting?
Ms. Martinez, do we have anybody waiting to speak at this time?
No one is waiting to speak at this time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. So let's move on to item 4, which is approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
Commissioner
Thank
Blako,
you.
second.
I apologize, Commissioner Vanderwell.
That's fine. I have a motion by Commissioner Vanderwell and a second by Commissioner Blako. Can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Blako?
Aye.
Commissioner Carey?
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell,
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next is item 5, approval of the minutes. First is the review and possible approval of the minutes of the May 5th, 2020 Planning Commission study session.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 5th Planning Commission study session.
Thank you, Commissioner Blako.
Commissioner Vanderwell, second.
Thank you. We have a first by Commissioner, we have a motion by Commissioner Blako and a second by Commissioner Vanderwell. Madam Secretary, can we please get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Blako,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. And second is the review and possible approval of the minutes of the May 7th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Vanderwell, I move to approve the minutes of the May 7th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Blako, second.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Vanderwell and a second by Commissioner Blako. Madam Secretary, can we please get a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Blako,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. And now we are ready to move on to our public hearing items. First up is PCN 20-0007, consideration of and possible action on a request to amend a special use permit to add 5,000 square foot building within an established self-storage facility on a site approximately 7.24 acres in size, located at 2845 Vista Boulevard, Sparks, Nevada, in the General Commercial Zoning District.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Planning Commissioners. I'm Jonathan Cummins, planner. This is a request to add 5,000 square feet of additional storage space to an existing storage facility. The site is 7.24 acres. And as you said, Madam Chair, in C2 zoning, general commercial, and the site is located at 2845 Vista Boulevard. And this is just southwest of the corner of Bering Boulevard and Vista Boulevard. The site is outlined in red in the vicinity map here on the screen. So the facility was originally approved through a special use permit, or SUP, in 1978, and it was ultimately built in 1988. Because the facility was approved through a special use permit, the only way to add additional square footage to the site is to amend that special use permit. And our current process for doing this is to adopt the amendments through a conditional use permit, which was ultimately will become amendments to that original SUP. So for some background, the facility was approved as a larger site to include the multifamily to the west here. If you can follow my cursor, I don't know if you're able to see that, but just to the west is a multifamily apartment complex. And up on the corner of Bering and Vista is a gas station. And those three uses were approved through one special use permit in 1978. So the proposed request, the current request this evening, will have no impact on those other uses. That original SUP document only addressed the storage facility to the extent that it required there be a manager's quarters built in the facility, which was essentially built. And again, this proposal will not affect that original requirement. Today, the facility has approximately 92,000 square feet of storage space on site, with an addition of 2,200 square feet of manager's office space and 128 RV storage spaces. So what I'll do now is zoom in a little bit. I want to tighten up the shot we have here of the site itself, and I want to draw your attention to the 3 rows of RV parking up here to the north. And so when I go to the proposed site plan that the applicant has given us for this expansion, you'll see that this southernmost row of RV spaces will be converted to the storage spaces. So here's the 3 rows, and this bottom row here will be the majority of the proposed added storage space. So as I discussed in the staff report, the site has been proven to have sufficient parking for existing customers, as well as to allow traffic around the site. In addition, there's a 3 parking space area in front of the manager's office on Vista, which does accommodate their demand for new customers to come to the site and basically do business with them. Again, overall, the site layout does require that there be sufficient circulation and parking for the use, but many storage, many warehouse uses are relatively unique in the way that they demand and provide parking. And so I'll get to that a little bit later when we go through the findings and discuss traffic and circulation and parking a little bit more in depth. Overall, the impacts of this SUP, or excuse me, of this amendment to the original SUP are negligible. They're adding 5,000 square feet to a 92,000 square foot storage facility. So we're going to have 4 conditions that were included as an exhibit to the staff report. Those will require that circulation remain adequate when the final building permit application comes through, in addition to making sure that the proposed architecture will match what's existing on the site as well. And in the current application, those 2 requirements are met. So a conditional use permit asks you to consider the following 5 findings. Finding 1 requires you to consider whether the proposal is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. Staff believes that the proposal does meet goal MG1 to support economic vitality by expanding an established commercial use, as well as meeting goal MG2 to foster diversity in the land use mix. And finally, it is required that we consider that there are sufficient city services provided to a site. And in fact, as I said before, I've said a few times, I guess, that we're talking about an established site. The site was built over 30 years ago and services are provided. Finding C2 asks you to consider compatibility with adjacent properties. And so what I wanted to do for this particular finding was draw your attention back to our vicinity map here. So to the south and southeast of the site is single family residential. To the west and northwest is multifamily residential, and then the majority of surroundings here are various commercial uses. The post office is located directly north of the site, and across Vista is the DeAndrea Point Shopping Center, and then various commercial uses up here adjacent to the gas station. So we do find that adding to an existing storage facility does maintain conformance with compatibility with surrounding uses in the neighborhood. Finding C3 asks you to consider the effect on natural resources. Again, this is an established site. They're installing the new storage units onto an already paved surface, and there will be no additional demand for water. Finding C4 asks you to consider any other impacts identified by staff. And so we've identified a few here. The first being architecture. The applicant has proposed to install new storage buildings that are relatively similar, almost identical to what is existing on the site currently. Circulation is an issue that we dealt with in a lot of depth with the applicant as well as with the fire department. The main concern being that when a moving truck is on the site unloading into a storage unit, that a fire engine would be able to access the entirety of the site, and their proposal does indicate that they'll be able to accommodate that. So we'll be looking for that additionally when we come to the building permit stage as well. So what's pretty efficient, I think, about our analysis on traffic here is that the applicant has provided documentation that shows that the added storage will generate 1 new trip per day to the site, but removing the 24 RV spaces that it will take to build the new storage units will eliminate that 1 trip. So basically, it's a wash. It'll be basically no change to the traffic impact. And finally, parking, as I said earlier, is relatively unique to storage facilities. Generally speaking, if you go to a storage site like this one, you're going to take your vehicle and park right outside of your unit to load or unload. And so when we look for the 48 required spaces, we look around the site to see if they could accommodate that many potential spots around in front of the existing units, and they can. The last part, I think, important to point out there was that they do also have the 3 units that are off of Vista that don't require to enter through the gate that are available for new customers. So parking is sufficient and has been provided and documented. And finally, C5 asks you to consider whether public notice was given. We did mail notices to 123 property owners within 500 feet of the site and published on May 22nd notice in the Reno Gazette-Journal. Staff is recommending approval of this item, and I will be happy to take your questions. I will point out first that I did confirm per Commissioner Carey's request on their Tuesday study session that whether or not there has been code enforcement issues at the site, and they confirmed with me again today that there have not been, and there are no current or recent cases at this site. So I'll be happy to take your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? I can't see all of you yet. Just raise your hand if you do. Oh, there you all are. See no questions.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, before we proceed, can we let the record show that Commissioner Peterson has now joined us?
Oh, there he is. So noted. Thank you. Is the applicant rep here and available to provide any additional information or comment?
I believe that's going to be a question for Ms. Martinez.
I am allowing Reed Hamilton in currently. Is that
Okay. I did not hear that.
there's a Reed Hamilton?
Miss Martinez, I do believe,
Yes.
yes, I do believe that he is a representative for this applicant.
Okay.
Hamilton is the owner.
There he is.
There he is. Hi there.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
All right. Hey, thank you very much for taking the time tonight. Greatly appreciate it. I think Jonathan did an absolutely fantastic job describing the project. At the end of the day, basically, the unit mix doesn't kind of match the current demand. It's a 30-year-old facility. And what we're going to be installing is just some smaller size units to fill the need of what's going on in the market. So with that being said, if there's any questions for me specifically, more than happy to answer, but that's our main motivation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Does any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Seeing none, this is a public hearing item, so I'd like to open it up for public comment. Madam Secretary, would you please repeat the call-in information?
So if you dialed into this meeting from your phone, you will now dial *9 on your phone if you wish to speak. If you've joined us by the Zoom app, you will use the Zoom features to raise your hand to request to speak. Staff has received one email comment specific to this item, and I will read it aloud now. So it was an email, and I'll just read you the email. It says, "Hello, we received your notice for a public hearing regarding PCN 20-0007, a 5,000 square foot building to be added to a property adjacent to ours. How can we find out what the proposed use of the building is for? Thank you. Best regards, Thomas Hops at 1908 Kirby Court." I did forward this email to the planner, and Mr. Cummins did respond to him, and he did not have any further questions once the project was explained to him.
Thank you. Casey, do we have anyone else waiting to speak on the line?
We have no public comment requests at this time.
Okay, with that said, I will close the public hearing and bring back to the commission for discussion. Any further comments?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead, Commissioner Blako.
I move to approve the conditional use permit CU 20-0004 associated with PCN 20-0007, adopting findings C1 through C5 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the 4 conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Vanderwell, second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Blako and a second by Commissioner Vanderwell. Madam Secretary, can we please get any further discussion before I go to the vote? I'm eyeing you, Commissioner Carey. All right. And I think we're now ready to do the roll call vote.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Blako,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously, and thank you, Jonathan. Next, we are moving on to general business. First up is PCN 12022, consideration of and possible action on a request to approve architectural building elevations for 6,000 square foot casino building in Zone E of the Legends Shopping Center in fulfillment of the requirements set forth in the Legends at Sparks Marina Planned Development Handbook.
Good evening, commissioners. Let me share my screen here with you. Okay. There we go. Are you seeing this?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. All righty. So this is for the Legends Bay Casino elevations. The proposed project is a 60,000 square foot casino on an approximately 8.98 acre site. It's generally located west of Sparks Boulevard and north of I-80 and east of the Sparks Marina Lake. Elevations for the casino were previously approved by the Planning Commission on June 2nd, 2016. And I'll show you those in just a moment. This illustration is from that previous approval, showing where the location is. It's sort of a northwest pointed. Here are the outlets at Sparks Mall and the IMAX Theater, and of course the Sparks Marina Lake right here, and familiar Hampton Inn and Residence Inn. So this should orient you to the location. So this is a northeast elevation that was previously approved. You can see the shields right here, and this is the northerly direction. This is the porte cochere for vehicle passenger drop off and pick up. The large sign here. We have.
Danny?
Yes.
Your slides are not advancing on the shared screen.
They're not?
Mm.
Oh dear. I'm not quite sure what to do about that.
Why don't you maybe try unsharing and then start it up again?
Okay. All right. Yes, please. I'm going to have Ian assist me here. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. Yeah, I don't know where it went. Oh,
There it is.
why is it over there? Oh, it says it's paused. Where'd it go? Is it just gone? Oh, there. Okay.
Did that update?
Yep.
Yes, and would you go to full screen, please?
Okay.
Control L.
Control L.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for pointing that out. So let me go back then. Were you able to see this slide?
No, would you go back to the site map or the vicinity map?
Right here?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So we see that. Had you not seen this before?
No, we had not.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, so we'll start back. Again, my apologies. So it's north of I-80, west of Sparks Boulevard, east of the Sparks Marina Lake. And then right here is the main retail center. This is the parcel that is owned by the applicant. Do you see a change now to the, okay, good.
Yeah. All
right. So again, here is where the Legends Bay Casino is to be sited. So we have, this is a northerly direction. So this is the north direction here. Here's the Sparks Marina, Shields, and the main retail center. Again, this particular illustration was from the previous presentation to the Planning Commission back on June 2nd, 2016. Okay, so here's that north elevation as approved in 2016. Here is the Shields, and this is an undeveloped property right now. But we see in these elevations heavy use of stonework. These are called brise soleils. They provide airflow for the pedestrians below, some murals. We have stucco columns about every 50 feet on this elevation, and large columns here to support the porte-cochere. Okay. So another elevation showing more of a pedestrian view. We can see the awnings here. These are made of metal. And we have planters down here, and these very large stone elements. And again, the stucco columns every 50 feet. The approved roof line was somewhat flat with this interruption about 2 feet above that roof line. This is their newest proposal. And I will show you later on in another slide, this stripe going around the perimeter of the building in this proposal is a multicolor LED lighting strip. We've seen several changes with this new iteration, this new proposal, mostly the removal of the brise soleils, changing the intervals of the columns from 25 feet, excuse me, I think I had said 50 before, from 25 feet to 50 feet. But they've added stone to the columns where previously they had been stucco. But most pronounced, we see this glass. This is a rose brown glass, quite expansive, that we don't see elsewhere in the center. We have I think these are in about 10-foot intervals, these 12 or 10-foot squares that are outlined in a metal framing, and that metal framing extends out about 2 feet or 2 inches, pardon me. So this is not a completely flat surface, but the glass is reflective, as you can see shown right here. Will reflect the clouds in the sky, reflect other buildings, lighting, and so forth. And here we go. We see some changes to the pedestrian level. We still have planters, but there's more of them, and they're deeper. There's more landscaping provided. We do have glass on the bottom level as well, but quite a bit of the stone elements are provided. Now, the handbook requires consistency with the main retail center for architectural design and use of building materials. This proposal does include all of the building materials that are mentioned in the handbook. And in the handbook, it does state to be used in any combination. However, in terms of consistency with the center, there is no other structure in the center that has this expanse of glass, of uninterrupted glass, without any other architectural elements other than these stones at 50-foot intervals, or, as you see here, the alternate cream color stripe. So let me go back here one second. A point that staff wanted to make is this design is really deliberately different than the main center. Should be kept in mind, this is a casino. The Legends Handbook does allow uses in the TC, or Tourist Commercial Zoning District. One might expect a casino to look different. But as staff going through the handbook, we come across that consistency requirement. And staff at this time is, given what I will show you, has not been able to make that finding of consistency. So these are architectural features of the existing main center. As you see, we have much different roof lines, lots of different elements. We have offsets, both vertical and horizontal. We have embellishments of different types of architectural features, a mix of materials. Here's a few other. We all know that Shields, which does use quite a bit of glass in its design, but it is clear window glass. It's not a reflective metallic type glass. And we see on our roof lines, we see some changes. And where we have more of a flat roof line, we have offsets existing in the mall. And where we have expanses of finishes and materials that don't have embellishments, they are not glass. They are stucco, or they are a type of masonry. And we can see here, we do have, again, the offsets, both vertical and horizontal here, with a generous use of stone. Down here in the Shield Center, especially, we have brick, stucco, metal, all types of materials. Okay. And again, this one, this view here shows that beige colored. So given that staff must make that finding for consistency with the center, and we see that the arrangements of materials in this design is not consistent with the existing elevations of the retail shopping center, staff is therefore recommending denial. But we are, staff is not able to make a recommendation in the face of that requirement in the handbook, but the Planning Commission does have the discretion in approving elevations to make a discretionary approval in favor of approval. I could have said that better. So like I said, we are, staff is recommending denial, but the Planning Commission has the alternatives to deny the elevations as submitted, to approve the elevations as submitted, or to continue this item to a future meeting and provide comments to the applicant and direction to staff. This ends my presentation, but I would like you to know the applicant would like to address the commission, and they do have a presentation of their own.
Thank you, Danny. Before we get to the applicant, does any of the commissioners have questions for staff? Commissioner Peterson.
Yes, I would like to know have they ever suggested a reason why they wanted to change the elevations?
Commissioner
Yes.
Peterson, that might be a good question to ask the applicant as well.
Yes, we've had discussions about that. And it's something I probably should have mentioned in the presentation that I did in the staff report is the Legends Handbook was approved and adopted in 2006. This is 2020, and that's 14 years, and architectural styles and themes, change and modernize over time. And although the handbook currently requires this consistency, this property owner and developer wants to build something that they consider to be more contemporary and more suitable to a casino. But again, I will let them speak to that as well.
Any additional questions? I thought Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a quick technical question for staff before we turn over to the applicant. I was curious if Danny, if you or maybe the other staff could kind of provide some more information on the discretion that's allowed for the commission to, I guess, provide flexibility or alternately approve something that isn't allowed by the handbook. It seems kind of from the language in your presentation that the standards shall be consistent with the shopping center, and the staff report says that it isn't. I was just curious if there's some more explanation on how about the discretion that we have, and if the commission's ever utilized that discretion to approve something that isn't allowed by the handbook architecturally.
I believe Mr. Arnelis would like to speak to that.
Thank you, Danny. Commissioner Carey, members of the Planning Commission, I'm Armando Arnelis, Assistant Community Services Director. So I think in the staff review of the new elevations, we believe there's enough there in terms of the technical aspects of the design to comply with the requirements of the handbook in terms of articulation, use of materials, etc. I think the determination about consistency is relatively more subjective. And so, I think in our view, there is more discretion afforded there because it is a more subjective determination to the Planning Commission than there is to staff. Does that address your question?
It does, and if you might be able to explain has the commission ever utilized this discretion before to do to approve something that wouldn't be allowed architecturally within Legends?
Well, I guess to your question, I think it's not that I don't think staff is saying that it wouldn't be allowed architecturally. Let's say that the handbook said that the building had to be pretty, right? Obviously a subjective term. I think consistency to some extent is in the eye of the beholder in this case, and so that's our view, is that we don't find it consistent just in terms of the sum of the parts. The way the materials that are used in the center are permitted by the handbook. The glass, even if it's a different color, there is glass used, in other sections of the center, obviously. It's really how the materials are combined in staff's view that they, as assembled in these elevations, don't reach the level of consistency. Again, though, we feel that there's enough subjectivity in that term that the Planning Commission could determine otherwise. So we gave you our view as staff, but we do believe that there's more discretion afforded to the Planning Commission. And Ms. McCormick may want to weigh in on that question as well. I don't know, but that's how we view the difference here between strictly technical requirements with regard to roof lines, et cetera, versus a term like consistency.
That answers my question. I appreciate the explanation from staff. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Madam Chair?
Madam Secretary.
I think Assistant City Manager John Martini wanted to speak on this at this time as well.
Thank you, Marilee. Commissioner Carey, to kind of give you a direct question, from someone who's been around here for a while. There have been several occasions in the past, they go back a ways, where we ran into similar issues, as Armando said, with subjectivity in our plan unit development handbooks in particular. The one that really comes to mind goes back to, two places, one in DeAndre and one in Wingfield. When we started kind of moving into the hillside, some of the home builders had brought, walkout basement, 2-story buildings with attached decks on the back. That was similar to what Olympia is trying to do tonight. Those handbooks had some years on them. And architectural standards and designs, in this case of single-family homes, had kind of changed. As staff reviewed both the DeAndre and the Wingfield handbook, they weren't specifically allowed, but they weren't, not allowed either. Similar architecture, similar materials were going into those homes, but the hillside walkout and the big deck that's attached to the back that you can see in both of those projects today had to be found in conformance by the Planning Commission because there is subjectivity to architecture. As Armando pointed out, we've got to look to the technicals of the building materials. And in this case, it's just assembled differently than the rest of the shopping center at Legends is. So it is a subject question, and it is in certainly within, as appointed officials, it is in your purview to consider everything in your decision tonight.
Thank you, John. That is a blast from the past. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, those go back a ways, Scott. So I was sitting here going, yeah, we've been here before, but it's there was a recession in between that kind of spaced us out a little bit.
All right. Thank you. Did we need to hear from Allison McCormick on this? Okay. If there's no other questions, let's have the applicant come up and make his presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Raley with Christie Corporation representing Olympia Gaming. Representatives from Olympia are on the call with me and will speak after me. I'd just like to discuss a few items related to the staff report and the center as a whole. As Danny notes in her report and in her presentation, it's the discussion that we just had. Architectural requirements are highly subjective. And I appreciate Armando stating that, that staff agrees that we have met the technical requirements outlined in the handbook. I think it's important if you look at what the handbook says. The handbook says that buildings shall be consistent by incorporating common architectural elements. And we feel that the proposed elevations accomplish this. The key word is consistent, not identical, not matching. I think if you look at the Olive Garden as an example of this, that Olive Garden building uses a unique stone on the building. It incorporates a Tuscan style that is not found anywhere else in that center. Nowhere. We've looked. Same with BJ's. If you look at that, they uses used brick, not the same type of brick. It has black metal accents, yet those buildings look perfectly fine in context with the center. The master developer, Red Development, has reviewed the elevations in context with their own handbook and agrees that they're appropriate and meet the standards. And if you look in your staff report, Red has provided staff with a letter to that effect, voicing their support for the elevations being proposed. The staff report does note a lack of articulation above the pedestrian level. We disagree with that. The stone columns, which once again are a common architectural element within the center itself, extend above the pedestrian level and not only break up the building facade, but the roof line as well. If you look at that primary IMAX theater elevation that was included in the staff report, the existing IMAX theater, if you look kind of to the west of that IMAX sign, there's little to no articulation above the pedestrian level. I think this building is actually much more articulated than some of the buildings that are out there now. Additionally, the glass itself is a unique architectural element. It's a reflective glass, but not in the sense of like a mirror. It's the same glass that was used on the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas. So it seems kind of funny, but in a way, the building will articulate itself through the changing reflections within the glass based on the time of the day, the seasons, et cetera. And I think it's going to be really cool to see a sunset reflected in the glass of that building. It's not a bright reflection, but it'll change colors. Once again, the color changing LED band above the pedestrian level creates a really cool and unique visual experience as well that will break up the building itself. As Danny noted, the building is purposely designed to stand out from the center. It's an attempt to create a wow factor for the casino. This is a casino. It's not a shopping center. It needs to distinguish itself as such. And that was really one of the driving things behind the original Legend Shopping Center and the use of star bonds, was to draw people in, to create a unique destination. And that's what Olympia is trying to achieve. But on the flip side, these elevations do that while drawing architectural cues and elements from the center, including the stone columns, some brick veneers, the overhangs, and especially some unique activity type within the building itself along the pedestrian level. Another benefit, at least we feel, of these elevations is removal of those secondary signs on the primary facade. If you saw the old elevations, it said, Duke Steakhouse, sushi, buffet. Those have been replaced with state-of-the-art LED panels at the pedestrian level. And what's cool about those is they can change with the season. They can advertise special events, advertise the restaurants within the building, but not hanging kind of off the side of the building, creating that sign clutter. And it really does create a lot of interest at the pedestrian level, especially out in the mall area. As Stacy from Olympia will discuss soon, the rose brown glass is an element included in previous iterations of the elevations. We're simply making greater use of it. It draws from the colors and elements on the Hampton Inn and the Residence Inn, which Olympia also developed. So I think if you look at those buildings, they have a proven track record of building high quality projects at Legends, and they truly have a vested interest to ensure that this casino is of that same high caliber. Before I turn things over to Stacy, I just want to reemphasize that this is a tremendous amount of discretion in interpreting these handbook requirements and finding consistency with the handbook. We, as well as the master developer, can make those findings, and the Planning Commission certainly has the discretion to make their own interpretation. Staff has indicated we feel that that's not necessary. The handbook provides adequate discretion to allow for approval tonight. An amendment process would take several months and thousands of dollars only to essentially get us exactly what we're proposing this evening. And Olympia is anxious to get going and avoid a delay if we can. The staff report does provide an alternative motion to approve, and we ask for your approval tonight. As I mentioned, we're anxious to move forward, and we feel that we've made revisions based on numerous meetings with staff and Red Development to address previous comments. And so we would wish to have this continued tonight. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Stacy White with Olympia Gaming. She's the project architect, to give you a little bit more information.
Thank you, Mike.
I don't know if she might be on mute. Stacy, are you on mute?
She is on mute.
There we go. Stacy, are you there?
How about we ask if the any of the commissioners have any staff for the applicant right now. Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll direct this question to Mike while we wait for Stacy to get on. I can certainly appreciate the comment about wanting to get started and the process to amend the handbook. I was just curious. This commission saw an amendment to the Legends Handbook in March. I was curious as to why this project, or revising the architectural standards or that consistency standards to allow for explicitly for this type of elevation, why that wasn't pursued when the handbook was amended by the city and the master developer in March.
I can't speak directly to that. I can tell you that I know that amendment didn't relate to the casino itself. The casino, even though it's governed by the handbook standards, is not part of the plan development. It's zoned towards commercial. When Stacy gets on, she might be able to speak to that a little bit more. But I think that, to be honest with you, in preparation of these revised elevations, it was felt strongly that we did comply with the existing standards and there wasn't any need to amend it any further.
Thanks, Mike.
Any other questions? Is Stacy available? She's connecting to audio, so we'll wait.
Yeah, I think she's having issues with her device. She's going to call in instead, I believe.
Okay. We'll give it a couple of minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Stacy just sent me an email saying that she is on by telephone call. So maybe if we could find her by telephone. Problem is I don't know her number, so.
If she could press *9 and raise her hand, I'll allow her in.
Okay. Stacy, did you hear that? If you press *9 on your phone, there you go.
I see.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Very good. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience while I work through the technical difficulties. And I'd like to extend a thank you to Danny for outlining the changes that we did to the exterior elevations as it compared to the permit-ready set of plans that are in the building department now that have been previously approved by the Planning Commission. I'm going to run through some of those bullets yet again, so pardon the redundancy, but I'd like to point out a few features that we're excited about. Throughout the exterior of the elevations and the primary elevations that you see as you enter the Legends Bay Casino, of course, is in the north elevation. That west elevation, which faces the lake and the Hampton Inn and Residence Inn, and of course the east and south elevations as viewed from the pedestrian areas as you enter in and enjoy the shopping center. We maintained the 25-foot column spacing that was on the original elevations throughout the pedestrian level. We removed every other column above the canopies, above those dark bronze metal canopies, which were also part of the original design. By removing those columns, it actually lent itself a little bit better to that color band, the LED color changing band that wraps around the building. We thought that added a little bit more visual interest. And the goal with the revisions that we made was indeed, as touched on earlier, to bring a little bit more contemporary flavor to the casino. Changing with some of the times, of course. The original design was approved several years ago, and it did go through some iterations of design at that point, but we really do feel that capturing some of the more streamlined, cleaner look, LED lighting, the color interest to the building, it's a little bit more exciting to capture that excitement of the actual use of the building being a casino. That being said, with the removal of every other column, those columns that do remain at 50 foot on center are now clad in stone to add a little bit more color texture and variation of material interest up above the canopies. That being said, those columns extend all the way to the ground clad in stone. We did remove the brise-soleils and the upper signage. As Mike touched on in his presentation, that digital signage that signage is now become digital signage on the pedestrian level along the east side of the building as you walk into the shopping center. So what we've done by moving that signage to the lower level, that pedestrian level, is we've actually reduced the amount of rose brown glass on the lower level and moved some of that to the upper level. So we're still, we're mindful of the fact that, gosh, this is a lot of glass on the building, upper and lower level. Let's see what we can do to minimize that. So we worked with staff extensively to make some of those improvements and modifications at their suggestion. And so as you walk into the shopping center along the east level, you'll see to your right the digital signage, and you won't really see the upper level as you're walking in. You'll see the canopies, which shade you as a pedestrian. We have planters that are clad in the brick. That Sioux brick veneer is the same veneer that we used over on the Hampton Inn and Suites. That can also be found elsewhere in the shopping center. So we wanted to be mindful to create a very warm, welcoming pedestrian experience that actually is very complementary, almost mimics the existing plans that are already approved and permit ready. So again, that upper level, we introduced the rose brown glass, but it is not a curtain wall system like the Wynn is. I just want to make that clarification of the Wynn has that same color glass, but theirs is a curtain wall system, so it looks like a continuous band of glass. Ours is actually broken up to be a little bit more of a warmer feeling by way of the bronze metal frames every 10 foot. So that was intentional and by design to put those frames at every 10 foot in between each of those 50-foot columns. And those columns, by the way, break the roof line by 2 foot, which is consistent with that original design. We did want to have that variation of texture and material. Also, if you look up at the top of the building, we have the bronze metal parapet cap, which adds another layer of texture and material above those canopies. So really above the canopies, there's a lot going on because when you have the metal canopy, there's actually a band that it's not as clearly represented on the renderings as I would have liked, but there's a band of stucco that's the same color as the glass that will be the structural anchor for those canopies. You see the metal angled cables and turnbuckles. That band that will support those canopies will be a stucco material. So you have the canopy, glass, a stucco band that's very subtle, glass again, the LED changing color in between the columns, and then the cap. So there's some visual interest that really we did indeed by design, as mentioned, want to bring some visual interest that is different than the rest of the shopping center, but while still being very respectful of the architecture. And we, as Armando said, we felt that, I'm going to use your technical term, Armando, it's a pretty building, we feel. And the accent of the color of the glass and the reduction actually in size of the signage on the north face, I think helps too. What we've done is moved the sign from the face of the building to the outer face of the porte cochere, which is a more appropriate place as you enter in a vehicle into the shopping center. You are going to see the sign not only as you drive up, but as you walk up. That pedestrian experience of that sign would have gotten a bit lost, keeping that sign back at the building plane. That being said, I do want to clarify that the material around the porte cochere is also that bronze metal. It is not a glass material. So one more item I would like to point out with the lower level glass is on the north face, pedestrian level, that glass is not the rose brown glass. It is a clear glass. It was rose brown glass on the existing drawings that are, again, permit ready. But we do have a buffet that has dining room seating. That glass will be clear glass and minimize the rose brown appearance again. So that rose brown glass really is only occurring above the canopies. And any of the pedestrian glass at the lower levels is again softened with the landscaping. Nice full tall evergreen foliage is intended. So that being said, I think that we've accomplished the goal, our goal of bringing new life to the casino that's more contemporary, more modern, that reaches a broad demographic, and will bring some excitement and life to the center and draw folks in there, not only to go to the casino, but into the shopping center as well. And that being said, I thank you for your time and consideration. And Mike, I'll turn that back over to you if you have any comments for closing.
Thanks, Stacy. I don't have any additional to add, but just want everyone to know that we're here to answer any questions you may have and would greatly appreciate your support.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have further questions for the applicant? Yes, Danny.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to point out that the Legends Center is all the same zoning. It's actually NUD for New Urban District. However, all of the uses that are permitted in the TC or tourist commercial are permitted in the handbook area, and that includes casinos.
Thank you. Any commissioners have questions? Thank you. I'll bring it back for discussion.
I'd like to make a comment.
Commissioner Blako.
I just wanted to say that I feel that the new design shows sufficient consistency between the Legends Bay Casino and the main retail center. I believe that the rose brown glass is done in good taste and not obstructive to the design consistency to the surrounding buildings. So I'll be supporting this motion, or supporting this elevation.
Thank you. Any other further comments by the commission? Commissioner Peterson.
Yes, I can appreciate very much that they trying to draw attention that it is a casino. There isn't a casino in Nevada that doesn't want to be unique in its own personal way. But I have to remember that they're in the Legends, which we all work very well to see the architecture and all that in there. And they have used all the materials which is allowed. There's no doubt about it. It is in the manner in which the materials are combined in this particular case. It draws away from the consistency of the other dwellings around in there. I do not see it compatible. I see way too much glass in it, and I just don't see it compatible within it. I never envisioned the Legends to be this way. I'm for the motion to deny.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissions? I have one comment. I believe that the elevations as submitted is consistent. It does include all the materials. I think it's okay for the casino to look different, and the fact that the master developer supports the elevations is reason for me to go ahead and approve the elevations as submitted. Any other comments? Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, this is a tough one. I think of all of the projects or elevations we've reviewed as a planning commission, this is probably the first one that's come forth with the recommendation of denial. You know, from a land use perspective, it makes a lot of sense. You know, this is an area that was designated in our comprehensive plan for tourist commercial. You know, and the type of development and the design that's put forth certainly meets that intent. You know, Olympia is a first class operator, and I think what they've brought forth and everything that they build is really high quality. You know, from my working in Clark County and processing zoning entitlements on the Las Vegas Strip, you know, I certainly understand the need for a casino to stand out. But you know, I just have a hard time with the language in our handbook that consistency requirement, and I got to support staff in their recommendation on this one. I think they did a good job outlining kind of their concerns and finding it. I just really don't feel comfortable as a commission, providing regulatory relief or flexibility or trying to variance from what our code is. Our job as a planning commission is to uphold and advance the goals of the comprehensive plan, and to ensure that our zoning code, which is the main tool for advancing our comprehensive plan, is upheld. And I think from where I'm looking at it, the handbook does not allow for this type of design. It's not consistent with the rest of the shopping center. And I agree with Commissioner Peterson in that the use of the glass as the predominant color is not consensus. Our job is to provide a technical review of projects. We provide a citizen perspective to help advance the comprehensive plan and uphold the zoning code. The handbook in this case is the zoning code. And I feel that if we were going to provide flexibility, I don't think it's our role as a planning commission to do that. I think as a body, the city council is in a much better position, and it's a more appropriate position to provide that flexibility and that discretion. I appreciate the work of the applicant and the high quality development that's proposed, but I got to agree with our staff on this one and go with their recommendation of denial. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Commissioner Pritzes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I really appreciate all the hard work that both the applicants and staff have put into this. But I agree with Commissioner Carey and Commissioner Peterson. I just don't think that it is consistent with the rest of the center, and predominantly it's because of the very heavy use of the rose brown glass. It does not really seem to fit in that area, and I will also be supporting staff's recommendation in this to deny.
Any other comments? Yes, Allison McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out, as Armando said towards the beginning of this item and the discussion on it, consistency is a relatively subjective term. I wanted to respond to some of the comments about that approving this would be departing from the handbook or going contrary to the handbook. While I certainly support staff's recommendation, I don't think that approval would be contrary to the handbook. Consistent is defined as marked by harmony, regularity, or steady continuity, free from variation or contradiction. Another synonym for consistent is compatible. I think Mr. Raley said it well, that consistent doesn't necessarily mean identical. So to the extent that other commissioners who spoke in favor of approval or haven't spoken up are inclined to approve, I think you can make that consistency finding. And I also think you can make a finding that it's not consistent. So I just want to be clear that approving this item would not be a departure from the requirements of the handbook. It would be a different interpretation of those requirements than staff's interpretation.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Vanderwell.
Yes, as what was pointed out by staff, the handbook was done in 2006 and things have changed since then. And then also that was pointed out by the applicant that there are a couple of properties within the Legends development that don't necessarily match up with everything that is in the handbook. And they are there and have not had any issues. And the thing with the Reds development approving the changes that Olympia Gaming has put to this casino, I'm going to have to say that I'm going to want to approve this because I believe that there are enough of the elements that are listed in the handbook to make the findings to approve this.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanderwell. Any other further comments? I will entertain one or other of the motions.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the architectural elevations for a new casino building in Zone E of the Legends Shopping Center in fulfillment of the Legends at Sparks Marina Plan Development Handbook.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Blanco, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Vanderwell and a second by Commissioner Blanco. Any further discussion? Commissioner Carey.
I certainly appreciate the discussion tonight by my colleagues. I will respectfully be not supporting the motion. I guess where I'm coming from, I think it's kind of more of a process thing, and maybe I was a little too heavy-handed on the applicant and saying that we're approving of this would be a departure from the handbook and the standards. I think we missed a big opportunity in March to amend the handbook to allow for something like this. But from where I'm looking at it and looking at these elevations, I just don't see how they're consistent. I can't make that consistency finding that's required. I think the use of the materials is not the intent of what is in the handbook and the design standards. And my preference would be if the handbook was amended or specifically allowed a departure for a casino to stand out, which certainly makes sense. It's the industry standard. It makes sense with the land use of this area. That would be one thing. I'm just not seeing from where I'm sitting that this is consistent and these elevations are in compliance with the handbook. I will not be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Any further discussion before we call for the vote? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, can you please do a roll call vote on the motion to support the elevations?
Commissioner Reed,
aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Nay.
Commissioner Blanco,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Nay.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Nay.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Okay, so we have 4 ayes and 3 noes, so the motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Danny. All right, moving along. Item number 8, PCN 20-0014. Consideration of and possible action on a request to approve architectural building elevations for a 396-unit multifamily residential project in fulfillment of the requirements set forth in the Stonebrook Final Design Standards and Regulations Handbook.
Everyone see that screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Thank you. Chair Reed, members of the Planning Commission, I'm Danny Ray, planner. We're here to look at the elevations for apartments in the Stonebrook Handbook area. And that is located east of Pyramid Way and south of La Posada in this area that's outlined in red. You want to make a point that this is all Washoe County here, medium density residential and single family residential to the south, and general commercial parcels surrounding, which are as of yet undeveloped. These are 3 of the color schemes. The project consists of 33 buildings on approximately 19.04 acres and is zoned NUD, Stonebrook Handbook, and subject to the requirements of the Stonebrook Final Design and Regulations Handbook. The handbook does define multifamily projects as an individual commercial project, and as such, the architectural elevations are subject to review and approval by the Planning Commission. Staff's currently administratively reviewing the project as AR 20-0006. The elevations do conform to the architectural standards of the handbook, as well as the multifamily residential design standards of the Sparks Municipal Code. And in the planned use of color, facade materials, and articulation, we can see we have a lot of vertical articulation and vertical offsets here. Horizontal articulation provided by the windows, the patios. We have multiple materials being used. We have stone, siding, stucco, and wrought iron patio railings. The tiled roof lines, as we see in the project, are broken with both the vertical and horizontal offsets to avoid any monotony, and it does provide consistency throughout the project. This is community center and pool house on the other side. The colors provided are grays, copper, and moss green in combination with light gray and dark gray accents. An earth tone palette that's consistent with the natural environment in the area. Staff, let's see, where are we at this point? Here are the colors and materials board where we see the slate graphic concrete tile. The masonry is Coronado Artisan Ledge, and the different color schemes. So this right here is one color scheme with the copper dovetail and light gray. This section is another one with the darker gray tone. And here is with the moss green theme. These elevations right here are of the pool house. And let's see. And this is of the garages. The garages do maintain consistency with the architectural elevations of the 33 apartment buildings and pool house. And these elevations here are for the trash enclosures, which do meet the standards for the Sparks Municipal Code, as well as provide consistency and design and compatibility with the center. Yeah, this was a short one. Staff does believe the elevations comply with both the Sparks Municipal Code and the Stonebrook Handbook, and does recommend approval. This concludes my presentation. I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dani. Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff at this time? Okay, seeing none, is the applicant rep here, and would they like to provide any additional information or comment?
I am adding the applicants in currently.
All right.
I think he's muted. There he goes.
Sorry, everyone. Hello tonight. Frank Bedar, Odyssey Engineering. I really thought Tana Mero was going to be on here tonight. I was going to give you guys a presentation, but I'm available if you guys have any questions at all.
Thank you. Does any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Seeing none, any further discussion or a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead, Commissioner Blako.
I move to approve the architectural elevations for a 396 multifamily residential project generally located east of Pyramid Way and south of La Posada Drive in fulfillment with the requirements set forth in the Stonebrook Final Design Standards and Regulations Handbook.
Thank you. We have a second.
Commissioner Vanderwell, second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Blako and a second by Commissioner Vanderwell. Any more discussion by the commission before we vote? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, can we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Blako,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously, and thank you, Danny. Next, we have item PCN 20-0015, consideration of and possible action on a request to approve architectural building elevations for a single-story, 83,698 square foot building, a grocery store, in fulfillment of the requirements set forth in the Stonebrook Final Design Standards and Regulations Handbook.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Reed. Members of the Planning Commission, I'm Danny Rain, Planner 2. Oops, let me get on the right screen. There we go. As you said, this is a grocery store. It's a Winco grocery store to be located east of Pyramid Way and south of La Posada, right in this location that's outlined in red, again in the Stonebrook Handbook. The site is zone NUD and subject to the requirements of that handbook. The handbook requires that architectural elevations are subject to review and approval by the Planning Commission. Staff is concurrently administratively reviewing the project as AR 20-0007. These elevations do comply with the handbook, as I'll show you later on in the slides. There was a handbook amendment that had the Winco in mind and added that illustration and description of this building. What they have proposed here today is a duplicate of what is in the handbook. They do conform to the architectural standards as provided, using the color and plane changes in combination with height and material variations on all sides of the building. They also comply with the commercial standards of the Sparks Municipal Code. The upper level is mostly comprised, as you can see, of lighter, more neutral colors, while the pedestrian level and accent elements are comprised of complementary shades of brown. The exterior finished materials include masonry, metal, stone, and stucco. It's worth noting the trash enclosure area and the area right here may be hard to make out, adjacent to the dock, the truck dock, is made of masonry and appropriate metal materials. No chain link is going to be used on this site in compliance with the Sparks Municipal Code. Let's see. Here are the complementary colors and materials that are being used. And this is the illustration from the handbook. As you can see, it is identical. In addition, the elevations do illustrate 5 of the required acceptable entryway design elements that are listed in 7.6.10 of the handbook. And these colors and materials do reflect the branding of the Winco Foods as well as the approved design within the handbook. So with that, staff does recommend approval of these elevations, and I am here to answer any questions. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Danny. Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff? Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Danny, just out of general curiosity for the listening audience, do we have a timeline for construction? I know we're looking at the elevations right now, but I was just curious in terms of where we are in terms of the administrative design review and when construction may start.
The administrative design review will be completed in about a week. We were waiting for these elevations. We had our plan review meeting already. So we're good to go with the administrative review approval letter. Like I said, within the next week. And at that point, it's up to the applicant on when they want to begin the permitting process.
That's great news. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the commissioners? All right. Is the applicant rep here, and would they like to add any information?
Nate Combs is available.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Nate Coombs. I'm with Peterson Staggs Architects, the architect representing Winkle Foods. Just wanted to thank Danny and staff for the presentation they provided. Don't think I really have anything to add besides, this was also reviewed and approved by the Stonebrook Architectural Committee. And looking forward and excited to come into Sparks with the Winkle Foods.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Seeing none, any other further discussion, or I'll entertain a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion. Commissioner Vanderwell.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the architectural elevations for a single-story, 83,698 square feet building grocery store generally located east of Pyramid Way and south of La Posada Drive in fulfillment of the requirements set forth in the Stonebrook Final Design Standards and Regulations Handbook.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Vanderwell and a second by Commissioner Carey. Before we call for the vote, is there any discussion by the commission? Commissioner Carey.
It's a quick comment. I concur with staff's recommendation on this one. I think the proposed designs is in substantial compliance with the handbook. I appreciate the explanation. It was kind of interesting to see how the handbook rendering matched the architectural renderings we're looking at, and it makes a lot of sense that this was in mind. So I'm very excited to have another Winco in the region, and excited to finally have another grocery store in North Spanish Springs. I think it's going to be a great addition for our shoppers in Sparks and in the county.
Yeah, I concur. Any further discussion before we call for a vote? All right, Madam Secretary, can you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Blako?
Aye.
Commissioner Carey?
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzos?
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson?
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Danny, for your presentation. Next, we're moving on to public comment. This is general public comment limited to items that are not on the agenda. Madam Secretary, would you please repeat one last time the call-in information?
If you dialed in the meeting on your phone, please press *9 now to request to speak, or use the Zoom features to raise your hand.
Do we have any public comment?
We do have one request at this time, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, you are able to speak.
Hi, this is Councilman Paul Anderson, and I just wanted to say, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners, you guys are doing an awesome job. Thank you for the work you're doing, and the decision that you guys made there on the casino. It's a tough one when staff is saying one thing and you're you're looking at all the different angles. I appreciate the debate, the decision, and I'm looking forward to this project moving forward. But thank you guys for what you do. You're doing an awesome job for our city.
Thank you, Councilman Anderson. Any further comment, public comment?
We have no further public comment at this time.
Okay. With that, I will close public comment and move on to announcements from staff and commissioners.
Chairwoman Reed, staff has no announcements.
Do any of the commissioners have any announcements? Commissioner Carey.
Yeah, I'd just like to announce that I think our staff is doing a great job with setting up these Zoom meetings. And I think you're doing a great job, Madam Chair, chairing these virtual meetings. I know it's a lot of work and it's not ideal, but I think they've been running very smoothly. I just wanted to thank staff for their hard work, and thank you, Madam Chair, for keeping this in line virtually.
Yeah, it's like herding cats sometimes. But thank you. I agree. Staff is doing a wonderful job. And I think I can speak for all of us that I really appreciate the work that they're doing. Any further comments from the commission? With that, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:31. Thank you all.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.